I am Monica. A few days ago, I discovered something shocking in my friend's room. Okay, so I had a friend named John in my piano class who I thought was gay. I enjoyed hanging out with him. One time, Mom came to pick me up from my piano class. John started asking weird questions about her, like, how old is your mother? Does your father live with you? What does she do for a living? I answered him, but I was truly confused. Once, John suggested visiting me at home. I thought it might be a good idea. I mean, he was just a friend, right? So I invited him to dinner. There was something in the air that didn't feel right. John and Mom were so engaged in their conversation that it felt like I was nothing but another piece of furniture in the room or something. When the evening was finally over, I thanked God for that. But the story was far from over. John started to regularly visit me at home with and without occasion, and he would engage in exceptionally long conversations with Mom every single time. It was really frustrating. From Mom's side, she thought that John was a little weird, but also that he was a polite kid. The next time he wanted to visit me, I suggested visiting his house instead. He looked uneasy at my suggestion, but he agreed. In his room, I noticed something odd. The walls were covered in posters of old ladies in short skirts. John went outside for a minute to bring us something to eat, and my curiosity pressed me to look into his closet to explore what might be in a gay guy's room. But what I found was nothing short of astonishing. His closet was full of women's panties, and not any panties. They were my mother's. I had absolutely no doubt about it. They were hers. When he returned to the room, I told him I had an urgent matter back home. I apologized and left his place with 1,000 questions in my mind. It couldn't be that my mother left those panties at his place. Mom was madly in love with my dad, and she would never cheat on him, especially not with a boy who was almost the same age as her own daughter. And like I said, she thought he was weird. I rushed back home and went straight to my mother, asking her if she'd noticed anything missing lately. And guess what? She told me that she didn't know where her panties were vanishing to. What was going on? Did this mean John liked my mom? It made perfect sense. If John wasn't gay nor attracted to girls my age, it was more than likely that he was into older women, like my mother. That also explained the posters on the walls of his room. How dare he think about my mom in that way? She was my mother, and she was a married woman. He'd used me to get to her. I couldn't control myself, so I went to his house. When he opened the door, his whole family was there, gathered at the table. I didn't care. The only thing I cared about at the time was yelling in his face for what he'd done. I pointed my finger at him and shouted about everything I knew. I concluded with, "I know that you are obsessed with my mother and that you took every chance to get into my house to be close to her." Before I knew it, John was lying on the ground motionless. I'd barely finished my last sentence, and his mom started screaming at the top of her lungs. His dad called an ambulance, which carried him to the hospital. I later learned that John had a breathing condition, and that when I faced him with the truth that he'd carefully hidden from everybody, especially his parents, he couldn't stand it and passed out. I don't know what to feel, recovery, but I don't regret what I did. Tell me what you think in the comments.